Anyway, let's watch this interview with the Taliban leader.
The utter capitulation of the Afghanistan government and its incompetent army is one thing. More shocking this past week has been the humiliation of the American military and its Commander-in-Chief, President Biden, accused around the world of being weak and indecisive. But what's most disturbing is the plight of millions of Afghans, especially women and girls, who are abandoned and now staring at futures more reminiscent of the Dark Ages. It's a frightening time, except for the Taliban, who've likely even surprised themselves at the ease with which they've regained control of this deeply troubled country. Mr. Shaheen, thank you very much for your time.
Okay, finally to the interview.
Listening to their official spokesman, Suhail Shaheen, you'd think Kabul was in the midst of celebrations.
If there were not the support of the people of Afghanistan, we would not have been able to put an end to the occupation.
That isn't necessarily true. An organization can be military effective but not have the support of many people and be able to exist. Boko Haram is a great example. Boko Haram did not have the support of the majority of people of any country, yet they've been able to find military, strategic, and other successes. The Taliban doesn't necessarily need to be supported by the majority of the population to force them to fear them. They most certainly don't have support in city centers, but they have captured city centers. Why? Because the resistance against them fell apart. That's why immediately we saw protests against the Taliban and even a rebellion in was it a Punjab region? I always forget how to pronounce it. But if we look at the live map, it'll show it pretty clearly. I'll try to pull it up in a second.
They supported us with their sons, and also they supported us with their money.
You expect the rest of the world to believe that the Taliban has swept...
Did somebody send me some video of those protests that happened in Kandahar? I'd appreciate it. Yeah, Panjshir, sorry.
...power off the back of the support of the Afghan people.
Yes, that's true.
It's not true.
If it was not the support of the people, how we can fight 54 countries of the world? Is it possible?
You've swept to power in Afghanistan because of the brutality and the barbarity.
Well, you could easily say a bunch of things. Number one, we could talk about the corruption of the ANA government. We can talk about the incompetence of ghost soldiers. We could talk about the dancing boys, but that's a pretty controversial conversation to have. We can talk about how we dealt with opium when at first there was a policy that the British wanted where we just pay farmers to burn their opium, but then they just kept growing opium because they could just burn the opium to make more money. Then there was our policy of just burning it outright, which then drove people to the Taliban. But there's a million reasons we can say as to why we lost. We could talk about how Donald Rumsfeld didn't know going into the war that Pakistan was going to be our enemy, and even said in communications that Pakistan might be our ally, they may be our friend. And the fact that Osama bin Laden was able to escape into Pakistan is a problem. The ISI worked actively against us for years. And we couldn't even address that during the first administration where we invaded the country. We could talk about how the first 6 to 7 years were a complete failure because we only concentrated on counterterrorism operations and wanted to leave the rebuilding effort to the UN. There's a million reasons we can go into as to why the war failed. But the idea that, well, the reason you won is because you were the most popular, that is extremely reductive.
...of your regime, because you've swept through regions across the country, killing people. There are very few choices in that country. It's either surrender or be killed. That doesn't sound like a good choice.
No, you are speaking the narrative of our opponents, like their spokesman.
We're hearing about people being targeted, being executed. People, Afghans who have served...
There's tons of reports coming out right now. The question is, how many of those reports are people, legitimately, how many of those reports are confirmed and unconfirmed is what's debatable, but the idea that the Taliban are being, nice little icons of human rights right now that they want to pretend to be, of course not.
With the allies who are being killed on the streets. The Taliban is going door to door and finding these people and killing them. What about these reports?
They are lying all the day and night to the Western media and the Western people in order to mislead the opinion of the world against us.
Do you consider women equal?
Yeah, of course, in their own way, on the basis of the Islamic rules, they have all the rights.
Oh my gosh, that's great. I'm going to answer every question like that. I'm going to answer every question like that from now on. So do you believe that we have equal rights? Well, you have equal rights in your own unique way. Boop. Like a little boop on the nose at the end of that. I'm glad you liked my Punish Dylan meme. It was a good meme.
All their basic rights.
Has the world abandoned Afghanistan?
Yes.
Was that the whole interview with the Taliban leader? Is there anything else here? Oh, there's more. Okay, there is more.
Absolutely. There's no other conclusion to it. The reality is, the world's walked away.
David Savage is devastated by what he views as a squandered opportunity that will have an enormous human cost. A high-profile former aid worker and UN war crimes investigator, he has a detailed understanding of the country and deep concern about what will happen next. What are you hearing out of Afghanistan?
Look, I've been in contact, continually with a number of the Afghan local employed staff, desperately trying to work out how they can get out of the country.
The Taliban says that things will be different this time, that they come in peace. I mean, do you believe any of that?
No, I don't believe it. And
I mean,
no.
if anybody believes any of that, you could be like, you could be sold volcano insurance in like the middle of Delaware, honestly.
None of the Afghan people believe it either. And as they've rolled on through
We've already seen reports of women being turned away from schools, and the women that do get accepted into schools are being placed into segregated classrooms, and we don't even know about long-term policies on any of these things, and most certain... no, we're not excited. There's even some regulations about, okay, we'll let women up to the age of 9. It's the messaging and the implementation of this has been so over the board, so across the board. While the Taliban are saying publicly, of course women are going to be allowed back in schools. It's all over the place. And that's just one issue. It's like that for every single issue. They say one statement publicly and do a total different thing in one area and a totally separate thing in a different area. The messaging is all over the place.
the country. They've committed atrocities on security forces that they've captured on government officials.
Yeah, let's not forget that literally it was just like a few weeks ago. It was a few weeks ago. ANA soldiers who were elite ANA soldiers trying to surrender, got just slaughtered, executed in mass. They just raised their hands and then got mowed down.
Talking about gouging their eyes out while they're alive. We're not talking, we're talking about hanging them in the streets where, these horrendous tortures. Does that...
Can anybody send me that interview where they say, will women be able to run for government? And they just the Taliban just start laughing?
Really look or sound like they're a new regime that's just beyond comprehension, really.
As our only civilian casualty of the war, the former police officer and UN war crimes investigator has experienced the savagery of the Taliban firsthand. In 2012, David was working with AusAid on a dangerous...
Here it is, right here.
Taliban president.
Would
Would that still include women's rights and a democracy? So would you believe in the democratic vote, though? So would people be allowed to vote in women politicians? Okay, that's fine.
They start laughing at the idea. I mean, come on. Let's not play pretend here.
Dangerous mission to help...
That dude's gonna be on the Scuff podcast in 1 week.
...rebuild in Uruzgan...
How long until we see a Taliban Twitch streamer? How long? It's not gonna be that long. I wonder how Twitch is gonna approach that.
...province, the heart of Taliban country.
We're walking back from the district governor's office and we're about, 100 metres or so from the gates of the base, and a 12-year-old child had been strapped with a suicide vest.
Dressed in white robes, the child was filmed walking straight towards the group. Spread out along the road, the security detachment was oblivious to the threat. Their cordon infiltrated, David was vulnerable.
I didn't see him coming, but he came up from behind me and about 2 metres away he detonated the vest.
I have continuously disrespected your home country of Pakistan. It's quite infuriating. Why? Because I made the true statement that the ISI supported the Taliban, and now Pakistan is sadly reaping what it sowed when it comes to Taliban support with the different attacks domestically. I mean, tell me where the lie is, though. I mean, let's be clear. Like, I weep for people who are affected by it, but like, that is because of a foreign policy failure of the Pakistani government. That's why that happened.
Wearing and, of course, blew himself up.
Oh, shit, son. God.
People that have worked for the Australians, for the United Nations, for other NGOs. I think that...
By the way, if people say this country's garbage or that country's garbage, like, you're going to get timed out for a while. And it's just because I don't like that type of rhetoric in my chat. I really don't. So you're just going to get timed out. I don't care what country you say it about either. And so somebody say it about Pakistan, that's a timeout. If you didn't mean it like that, then don't worry. Just wait 2 hours or send me a DM.
Once the international community's withdrawn all the internationals out of there and the foreign journalists have gone, then I think what will happen is the bloodshed and the paybacks will absolutely commence.
Hey, look, to be honest, if I hear the ticking of a clock and a Taliban fighter, like, that combination, like, gonna get me ducking, honestly.
Stuart McCarthy is proud of Australia's contribution to Afghanistan. The retired Army Major is a veteran of 2 tours of duty and
that almost feels like they're trying to give people PTSD.
is instilled with a deep sense of loyalty to...
Stop, Dylan? What? Stop, Dylan? What? Am I not allowed to make fun of the Taliban? Is making fun of the Taliban offensive? I'm sorry, but I will continue to make fun of the Taliban.
the Afghans he served alongside. People, he says, who have now been thrown to the wolves. How are you holding up with the news that we're hearing out of Afghanistan?
I'm struggling. I'm struggling. Everything that's happened over the past 3 to 4 months was not only foreseeable, it was foreseen. A lot of us have been begging our own governments to help prevent exactly this scenario from unfolding. And we've got nowhere. We've got nowhere. And that really hurts.
The unwritten rule of military service is that no man is left behind. For Stuart McCarthy, that's exactly what we've done. To the interpreters and the many others who were vital to the Allied mission.
We know documented cases of interpreters and other Afghans who worked for us. They've been pulled up at Taliban checkpoints trying to flee.
Dylan, war is bad unless it's a war that pushes my ideology? Unironically, yes. What do you mean? Yes. You want the base Dylan take today? Yes. What if... Yes, I believe the war to invade Iraq was stupid. But I do believe the war to defeat Adolf Hitler was good. If that is a hot take, Hitler bad, and I will go to war to defeat Hitler, then I will bite that bullet. I hate to say it, but yes, Hitler bad, shoot Hitler. Yes.
Those provinces and get to Kabul. They've been dragged out of their cars. They've been taken to the side of the road.
All wars have ideology. God, man, I can't chat today.
And either been shot in the head or had their throats cut. These are the simple facts of what's been happening. They were the key. If we were to succeed in Afghanistan, these were the people who would have been the key to that success. And look at what we've done to them. We've left them there to die.
Taliban leaders have promised
Whoever killed Hitler better give themselves a pat on the back. That was a good job.
to grant an amnesty to all Afghans who opposed them. But giving up on retribution against its sworn enemies is not the Taliban way. Can you guarantee that those Afghans who assisted Allied forces will be safe under your leadership?
Yes. The guarantee is our official statement. We officially announced that their life, dignity, property are safe. This, I think, the best guarantee and commitment.
Despite the assurances of spokesman Suhail Shaheen, there are credible reports of Afghan soldiers and their families being hunted down by Taliban militants. And the extraordinary scenes at Kabul airport are an indication of the panic among those who've helped Allied forces. People of Kabul would prefer to fall from the wings of a plane than stay in an Afghanistan ruled by the Taliban. Is that not evidence to you that your own people are fearful of the Taliban? What are they running away from?
This was a conspiracy. The aim behind that was to show to the world that the people are terrified and scared from Taliban.
You know the truth.
Yeah, you think if somebody is willing to cling onto a plane and fall to their death on the off chance they somehow are able to hold on to it, a newsflash, that'll never happen, that maybe is not a good point for how much the people love you. Yes, I would say that.
And people are fearful of the Taliban. What are they running away from?
This was a conspiracy.
A conspiracy. So are those fake bodies that the Americans just threw out off the side of the plane, or what was that?
The aim behind that was to show to the world that the people are terrified and scared from Taliban.
So they were just faking it. All those were fake actors. We deployed like the Hollywood's best, who can fake their own death as they fall from planes. Brilliant.
You know the true Taliban, don't you?
Of course. I belong to Hazara ethnic group. So the most
So that group, the Hazara, they were ethnically cleansed by the Taliban. To just be perfectly clear, they were slaughtered.
Persecuted minority of Afghanistan.
Bharat Ali Batur went through an epic struggle to secure a new life in Australia. But he counts himself lucky to have escaped at all.
I was working as a photojournalist in Afghanistan, and also I was working with the allies. So I worked with the United Nations, and also I worked with the US Embassy.
As a photojournalist, Batur documented the best and worst of Afghan life. But when he exposed the sordid world of dancing boys, young men forced into sexual slavery for the pleasure of Afghan warlords, he was told he would be killed.
I had 3 crimes. Like I was Hazara, I was working with allies, and
this is something I was talking about earlier.
I was a photojournalist. I had more reasons to leave than to stay there.
What's the past few days been like for you watching what's happening in Afghanistan?
This is terrible because Afghanistan, our country, like we call it motherland, like a mother. And it feels like the people of Afghanistan has lost a mother.
Batur, do you think the world has yet seen the full force of the Taliban's brutality?
I think this is just the start.
For all of their promises of peace, Batur is convinced that the Taliban will show their true face as soon as they've consolidated power. Do you worry that the Taliban now taking control of Afghanistan, of Kabul, that we're going to see the Afghanistan we saw in the 90s?
This time, Taliban is more powerful. They have been legitimized by the US. So they have come with more power, with more force, and with much more arrogance. So this will be a much worse Afghanistan than the 1990s.
There's no doubt that had they come sooner, the evacuations of those who helped the international mission could have achieved much more. Disgusted by what he views as a shameful betrayal of the Anzac spirit, Stuart McCarthy burned his service medal in symbolic protest.
When
If I-
femboy memes go too far. Also,
Jesus
60
Christ,
minutes is honestly
Salah,
pretty
calm
terrible.
that down. Jesus.
I was to continue to wear my Afghanistan campaign medal, specifically, knowing that we as a country had abandoned these people to be executed by the Taliban, I would have been ashamed to wear it ever again. So it actually wasn't that tough a decision for me to make. What's more valuable here? A shiny piece of metal or human lives? We can, if we as a country and if our leaders decide to go and get these people out, we could save hundreds of their lives. And that, here now today, that would be, from my perspective, one of the best possible things that we as Australia could do to finish our 20-year-long military commitment to Afghanistan. Let that be our legacy.
The Taliban claims it's softer, more sophisticated this time around. But the signs so far are ominous. And for those who represent the modern face of this long-suffering country, the fear is that the nightmare has only just begun. The Taliban says that things will be different this time. Do you believe a word of that?
I don't believe in that. Women are a zero for Taliban. Women are, non-existent. We are scared, we are afraid. We are sitting here watching ourselves dying. Leaders are not helping us. Government are not helping us. No one is helping us. Only the world can help us. Everything is finished right now. Everything is finished. We don't have any hope.